We'll go ahead and call our council committee meeting to order. The first thing we have on our agenda this evening is under administration. Mr. Howard, Ms. Cahill.
Yes, Mayor. We got 2 items on our agenda for this evening. The fiscal year 15-16 tax rates and our year-end report. We're going to start with the fiscal year tax rates. I'm going to turn it over to Mark Fields.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. This is a very short presentation. There's going to be 4 slides. The first one we want to show you. You want me to do this, Missy? Yeah. There it is. This is the history of our tax rates going back to 2005. As you can see, it's gone consistently up every year. What you don't see is the very last year, 2015. The reason is because that audit hasn't been done and all the numbers aren't there yet. But the tax rate for 2015 was the very same as 2014. Last year when we talked about the tax rates and we talked about keeping them the same, we even considered lowering them at that point in time, if everybody remembers the conversations that we had last year.
Yeah. Yep.
But with the uncertainty that was surrounding Toyota and not knowing what was going to happen with that and not knowing where the economy was going to rebound, we decided not to do any reduction last year. We decided to keep it the same. I'm going to be happy to report that the very next slide is going to show you what our history has been. Maybe. There we go. Now, this is pretty small, okay? But the reason we want to put this one up here, we go back from 2010. Now, you're going to see the beginning fund balance that we had and what we ended up with in the year. So the top line is the beginning fund balance. The bottom line is the ending fund balance, okay, for 2010. 2010, the first column is going to be the budgeted amount. The next amount is the actual amount that we spent. Okay. Now you're going to see on the expense side it went from 14 million and something to 16 million and something. However, all right, that wasn't the expense. There was some bond payments and proceeds that were in there that accounted for that. So our budget didn't go up that much. It was the bond proceeds. But if you look every year after that, you're looking at 2011, what we actually budgeted, what we actually spent. Okay, you got 13,368 is what we budgeted. We actually spent 12,527. The reason I want to put these up here is to show you the history in the past few years of we actually have not spent the amount that we've budgeted. We've always come in under budget for the past 4 years. So in essence, what you're going to see every time we go down through there, the 1 year especially, if you're looking at 2012 to 2012, the actual one I budgeted was like $1.6 million difference. You can see what it's done to our ending fund balance. So that means today, from 2010, we went to a fund balance of $1,037,000 all the way up to $8,703,000. It's in our general fund today. If y'all remember, several years ago, y'all passed or the council passed, maybe all of you weren't on council at the time, that we wanted to have 30% in reserves. Well, that 30% mark is about $4 million, okay? So we're way above that as we speak right now. So financially speaking, the city is in very good financial shape. Very good financial shape. So I want to show you the history. We've been very conservative in our budgeting on the revenue side. We've been conservative on our expense side, and we've always come in under the past 4 years, under what the expenses were, what we had budgeted for expense. We were able to amend the budgets to do that and come in lower. So what we're going to propose this year, there were several different options that you could look at. What it actually means is, if in fact we would take the compensating rate plus 4, all right, it would mean that you were spending that'd be the 609 on that one, okay? But if we took a compensating plus 4, okay, that would take our rate on real property up to 3780. All right. On the personal property side of it, it would go up to 6570. This is just an example. This is not what we're recommending that we do. several other ones in here. This gets smaller as we go along. I don't know why the sheets did that to us, but it did. We go along. What I want to draw your attention to is the bottom sheet, the very bottom copy of this thing. All right? What we are going to recommend the council adopt tonight, or have the first reading of an ordinance tonight, would set our tax rate for the year 2016 fiscal year, okay, would be 0.347, which drops it 10 cents basically. So in essence, your property on a $100,000 house, your tax that you would pay on that goes from $357 to $347. On real property, it's the same way. It would have went from the top amount of $609 down to $599 on that same amount of $100,000 worth of tangible property. So what we're suggesting is this rate decrease. All right, now, what it does is what we budgeted and what we adopted then, it lowers our revenue by $136,000 of what our budgeted revenue was, how we had projected what it was going to be this year. It'll drop that by $136,000. I want y'all to know that these are just estimates, okay? The past few days, once we did these numbers last week, I know Mrs. Andrus has got several different
Additions and deletions.
yeah, deletions and additions to the tax roll since that point in time. That's a moving target. I want everybody to understand that. That's a moving target. There are additions, deletions that she's receiving on a consistent basis. So that goes down. But our best projections would be it would be this much lower on our revenue side. As you can see by the history of what we've done in the past 4 years, all right, our revenues have always come in higher than we projected. Our costs have always been lower than we projected. We believe that this $136,000 is on paper. It's right there. We believe that it will not affect us. It will not affect our operations. We are not cutting anything to do that. We are finally to the point, financially, also on the economic boom that we're seeing. Many projects are within the city that a lot of you are aware of that are pending, that will probably be coming to fruition in this next year. Very good news for all of us, and hopefully we'll be able to stand up here next year and do the very same thing, maybe even to a greater extent than what we've done this year. This is a place for us to start. So in essence, what we're recommending is that we take the lower rate of 0.347 and on the real property of the 0.599. So I'll entertain any questions the council may have. Ms. Scott, come on.
Yes, could I address council and the mayor, please, at the podium?
Sure.
Do we have a way of getting?
Which one do you want up?
Okay, tonight I have several questions for you, Mayor. First of all, I don't think you all can read this letter up here. I've got the laser, but it's not going to help because it's too small. This is a letter to the Northern Kentucky Tea Party by Tyson Hermes, Mayor of Erlanger. And these are my questions. Number one, why did you share these tax rates with the Northern Kentucky Tea Party in this letter before discussing them and sharing them with City Council? Isn't it customary to share these numbers with the members of council before making statements about how some members will react? Members of council did not see these numbers until later in the week. My second question, in the second paragraph of this letter, You stated that, quote, "We have some council members that will insist we increase our tax rates," end of quote. Would you care to identify who the some council members are? My third question. In the third paragraph, you take credit for lowering the tax rates by saying, quote, "Under my direction, Erlanger does not plan to take any compensating rate increases," end of quote. Were you part of city government last year in 2014? When, in fact, before your election, as Mr. Field stated tonight, we discussed lowering taxes for 2015 because our economy was improving and several businesses were planning to come to Erlanger. Isn't it also true that our city staff shared our finances and economic outlook with you just as they did tonight, and they were the ones who recommended the tax decrease to you? And the fourth question, you called for, quote, "help" in paragraph 4 for the public to speak out because, quote, "certain council members will oppose tax rate decreases," end of quote. Could you tell us who those certain council members are? Number 5, excuse me. You also stated that in that same paragraph that, quote, "nothing sways council's opinion better than members of the public speaking out," end of quote. I take an issue with that because while it is true that we encourage people to come and speak out, we love when you do that because we need to know what you're thinking. However, a lot more goes into our decision making. Don't you think we look at our budget? Don't you think we plan it to benefit 18,000 members of our community? Because that's who we're representing. That's who elected us. We actually do study the numbers of the budget. We have a yearly meeting every year where this is a big discussion. We talk to each department head. We started considering the tax rate for this year long before you were elected. And just in case you don't know, we don't make decisions on one night's meeting. We listen to all the facts, and we weigh the pros and cons before making any decisions. When it comes to the budget and tax rates, we try to keep in touch with as many of our constituents as possible, and we discuss and plan for our city's future months in advance. Again, the election is over. We should all be working together to serve the citizens of Erlanger and not just making ourselves look good to the public. And I have one more question. Number 6. This does not refer to what's up here in front of you. In an article in the River City News, you stated that you have, quote, "worked hard to ease tensions," and that you are, quote, "succeeding in promoting an understanding with your colleagues in administration and the 12 council members." Do you actually think that sending this letter to the Northern Kentucky Tea Party accomplished that? I don't think it did. It seems to me that you are once again, attacking City Council by trying to make us look like the bad guys while making yourself look like Erlanger's hero. And I got that impression from several citizens. This is not just my idea. Several citizens called me about this letter, and they were shocked. Now, I have lived in the city of Erlanger for 42 years. That's probably almost as old as you are. And I have served on this council for almost 20 years. And I have to honestly say that I am appalled by your actions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vicki. I don't remember the order or each question there, and I don't plan on addressing every one of them. But Sure. I guess my question would be, if you've been discussing the tax rate, how come I don't know?
Before you're elected, when elected budget last year.
Well, you make it sound like everybody knows what the tax rate's going to be.
No.
You make it sound like you've been working on it and you guys have all discussed this. I wonder why I don't know.
We discussed it at the budget meeting, the one that we had, when was that, February, March?
So what was the rate that was
We didn't come
discussed
up with
then?
a rate, we just discussed it. We
Okay.
wait until we hear the final budget. You have to look at your budget. It's just like when you're planning your family budget. You have to see what's coming in and then plan what you can spend. I mean, I'm retired now, so I have to look at my budget over again. I don't have money just flowing in. So I have to look at the budget again and say, okay, this is what I can spend. Now, with Mr. Field's presentation, my take is we are going to be $136,000 short, which, if you look at the long picture over all the years, is not bad, which means we can probably take a tax deduction. I have issue with that letter because it sounds to me like you've already decided what some council members are going to say, and that's just not right. That's not right. People were appalled at that letter. They told me, they said, he makes you look really bad. I said, yep, that's what impression I got when I first read it too. Makes council look really bad.
Are you going to name the council members, sir?
I won't do that.
Oh, why?
That's good.
Well, I don't know for sure.
Exactly.
And I would like to hope that people would be on board.
How can we be on board if we don't have the pertinent information that we need to even make a decision? How dare you speak for us? How dare you?
I'm not speaking for you.
The
You
normal
did in the letter. You
Yeah.
certainly did, sir. And I'll tell you another thing, and I quote this in your letter. We received NKADD's recommendation. That is a falsification, sir. Area Development
did.
District, this is in your
I have
letter.
I have it in
This
my
is in
I
your
have it in my
letter.
office.
And it is not a recommendation. All they do is give us the numbers, sir, and we take it from there. You infer to their recommendation in this letter several times.
I'll read it
And
to you.
under your
If you'd like to hear it, I'll
direction-
read it word for word. It is a recommendation.
Under God's direction, being you, of course, Erlanger is not going to follow the advice. They are not giving us advice. They are giving us information. Mr. Hermes, I am very proud of my 20 years on city council and my 35 years of public service to this city. I have never seen morale so horrible. You have people terrified that they're going to lose their jobs. You go behind everybody's back. I am sick and tired of it, and I hope the citizens will take a real good long look at you, sir, because you have no ethics, none.
So, Patty, if you don't mind me asking, what is your feeling about the tax rate and reducing the tax rate?
Well, now that I've got some information, perhaps I can choose.
Right, we didn't have the numbers. We did not have the number. When this came out, that's the first time I saw the numbers. And I think that the way we've always done it before is the mayor would meet with us and say, these are the numbers, what do you think?
Not this one.
And
Well,
it
that was
didn't
the
happen.
purpose of this evening.
Well, yeah, tonight, but you already did this before the meeting, and it makes us look real bad.
Well, I guess, my other question would be, why hasn't this happened before? I mean, why haven't you taken tax breaks in the past?
Probably because we couldn't afford it.
How can you say you couldn't, when you've built a war chest of $8.7 million in the worst economy that
it's
this
a
country's
moving
seen since the
target.
Great Depression?
It's a moving target, like Mark said. You don't know what's going to
We
come
didn't know
in.
we were going to lose Toyota, sir.
But
That doesn't have anything to do with
I will say,
Toyota.
though, when we passed the budget in June, that we felt pretty confident that the three-year horizon, we were going to be okay. And at that
We did.
time, we said, here's the revenues we need to meet the year. Now, I don't think the 347 goes far enough, because if we were comfortable that, you know, $3.7 million was enough to raise in property taxes, let's set the rate at that level. Unless we think we were wrong, but it sounds like, you know, to call it a, you know, being short by $160,000 or whatever the number was,
Well, that's just
I think
with the budget.
is, you know, misconception. It's $160,000 short of
I don't wanna
last
hear
year's
about
revenue,
misconceptions.
but not still $113,000 more than we budgeted. So it is higher than what we budgeted already, what we
Mayor?
believe to be the amount that we need to run the government.
Also,
Mr. Dunham.
in your letter, you stated you've been working so hard for 7 months to get Erlanger in the right direction. What you did in that letter to River City News has destroyed any confidence that this council has in you. And we're starting to bend your way because you're starting to come across with some good meetings we've been having and conversation with you and our committee meeting and stuff. And then you put a letter out there like that, has destroyed all the confidence in these council members.
I'm sorry for that.
Well,
I made it very clear in
thought about that
in the article to the River City News, I made it very clear that that the staff is behind this. The staff is
Right, but you did not discuss this with council. You went over our head and decided to do something without talking to council and give us the numbers.
How do you propose I discuss this with council other than one of these public meetings? This is our first opportunity to do it.
Anything in the
Don't
paper.
write a letter to the Tea Party prior to our meeting, sir.
You know how many people saw that letter?
I don't.
And that's
I
what
have
gets
no
me,
idea.
because you say in there, I need your help. In other words, I don't need council's help, but I need your help. I need you to be here tonight at this meeting to sway council's vote. That to me, I just don't like that.
You know,
Don't like it at
in the
all.
60 years I lived in this city and coaching high school football, Pee Wee football, and been on council for 20-something years. I've never felt as bad as I did this weekend reading that letter. It destroyed my confidence in the leadership up here that you're supposed to be presenting. And it totally destroyed my confidence in our mayor. Because you don't trust us
Obviously.
to do something right. That these citizens voted us in this position to do. And there's several of them out there that's come to these meetings and saw what we have done to help them over the years. And what you've been trying to do for 7 months, you just destroyed in one letter.
John, this is a two-way street.
Please?
This is a two-way street.
I understand.
There are 417 cities in this state. And in 282 years, there's never been a city council attorney. You feeling like you have to have an attorney here to represent you at these
Absolutely, now I
meetings
do even more.
makes me feel like I need to do something to justify
Even more now
this.
than ever.
Absolutely.
I kind of worry, I kind of worry sometimes I'm not doing enough to justify it. Corinne, you had your hand up.
Okay,
Oh, we're getting away from
we've
the
been
issue
down
now.
this road at least 3 times with you. And each time we've moved on, and I thought when we hired Mr. Gatlin that things were finally looking up. And by the way, Mr. Gatlin, we all appreciate you.
Yes.
And sympathize with you also.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
so, you know, I had a conversation with you months ago saying elections are over, stop campaigning against us. So after Mr. Gatlin was hired, it seems like we've had a few good meetings, and those several times that you've gone behind our backs, we've all forgiven you, we've all had conversations with you. This letter, I don't know how many people on council got this from a resident. I know I did. And it was a resident. First of all, we were elected just like you, so we know a lot of people. And we have friends that are Democrats, Republicans, and Tea Party. So several of us got this from Tea Party people. The one I have here was from a business in Erlanger. And the person that works at this business is a Tea Party person and said, "Why is your mayor always undercutting you? You guys need to see what he did." Now, how can we ever trust you again? We've already trusted you twice, and again, you did this. I can't trust you again.
Well, this is uncharted territories for me.
I'm going to call point of order, only because we're getting away from the discussion on the tax rates, and I'd like to stay with the tax rates for the time being, please.
That's what this is about.
That's what this is all about, Bill.
That's the introduction of the letter there, tax rates. And I'm mad because I didn't see them first, and I have to hear about this from citizens. That's just not right.
Exactly.
They know more than we do, and that's not right. I mean, we share with them, but before we make a decision, you just don't do this before you talk to your council members, and then accuse certain council members are going to be insisting that the tax rate decreases. That's just not fair. It's not fair to make those comments. I'm sorry.
It's unethical. It is.
Renee?
It's unethical.
We're here for the best of Erlanger, and you have to remember, we're not politicians. We're regular citizens. If we raise taxes, we're paying it too. We're paying the taxes just like they are. But the reason we did it is because we felt like we wanted to cover our backs in case some disaster comes up that we need the money. But this year, it looks like we're good. We have covered, there's so many cities that have gone bankrupt and are in trouble. And we've always prided ourselves on looking at this very wisely.
And I'm sorry,
Okay.
sir, it has nothing to do with you.
Yep, it's not about you. It's about
Ever.
the citizens.
It's not about you.
Why don't we go ahead? You know, if there's more discussion, then that's fine. But,
Yes, let's move on.
Could you show us 2010? Because I think that explains why we wait to that last 11th hour to decide on those.
This one?
Nope. Nope. Go back to your original.
Your original one with Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg, do you remember what year we instituted the Capital Improvement Fund? 2009. Okay. I'm going to tell you what our belief is as a staff of why this turnaround occurred. 2009, you instituted an increase in our payroll tax that had not been increased in.
Oh,
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Well,
you're right.
I was working here when it was enacted, so I just want to say that, and I know it was enacted sometime in my belief in the 90s when it was enacted, because that year the employees got a 1% raise, and then they instituted a 1% payroll tax, so the employees got no raises that year. But in 2009, no, Missy, it's the next one. You can see where our fund balance was in 2010, and this is what we talked about as a staff. And I want you to know something else. You know, Mayor's taking this tonight, but this was a staff recommendation. Okay, we met with the mayor on Wednesday, gave him these numbers on Wednesday. We did not give them to any of you. So if in fact you need to blame somebody for that, please blame me.
I'm
For that,
blaming
okay? Blame me for not giving them to
This
you,
letter
because
came out
that's
Wednesday.
never the way we did it. But Wednesday afternoon, we met, we decided upon this recommendation. Okay, I'm just saying, we're the ones that met, we're the ones that did this, okay? But in 2009, that next year, when that went in, you took that 0.5%, and that 0.5% went into a capital improvement fund. That funds all of our road improvements, all of our infrastructure improvement, funds all of our vehicles. None of that comes out of the general fund any longer. So if you see that, when it took effect in 2010, that's when you start seeing the fund balance every year increase, increase, increase. And we finally got to that point, you know, in 12-13, where we had that 40% or 30% the council had said set aside to have in reserves. Okay. Last year was the first budget that we have done as a team together. This is the second one. This is the draft. We saw this happen. It happened at that point in time. The recession turned around and did all that. Mr. Cahill, are you talking about the 14 million to the 16 million as far as that goes? Greg, we talked about that. If you want to explain the bond proceeds that caused that gap and what happened there. A lot of these things too, and you have to remember too, that was a lot of the time when the dispatch fund was going on, and we closed out the dispatch fund and did some things around. So.
The increase in between, in the revenues, or the expenses, excuse me, between 2010 and 2000, the budget and the actual was there were some bond proceeds. We borrowed money the year before, and we weren't sure, you know, when it was going to be, actually borrowed it like right at the beginning of 2010. And when we did borrow that money, we spent it, and the expenses went up. So, and when we had put the budget together originally, we had not anticipated those expenditures. So that's the increase, or the reason for the increase between the budget and the actual. And then they went back down again the following year.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just think it's an important point to realize that this is a moving target. We're looking at those, when we look at those compensating rate, the compensating +4, or no tax increases or tax decrease, we have to consider all these factors here. So when you have bond increases, whether or not we're going to distribute that and what's going to happen. For example, the payroll tax, we took that burden off the citizens and put that on the businesses, which resulted in a zero raise for the employees that year. So we are looking forward to these things. We are looking at the things that are necessary to make this city solvent, to make it good, and to make sure that we have the infrastructure we need. That means your roads are good. That means you have a fire department and a fire truck that shows up, a police department, public works that clears the snow and maintains your nice parks. So I think it's important to realize those things when we're talking about this. Because we have this because we are above the 30%, I think you're going to see that most of us would be very agreeable to this tax decrease. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's going to be a great way to, show, hey, we've worked hard, we've done these things to do those, but you need to realize that when we make these decisions, we try to make them as a group with all the information, not just people's opinions.
Can I say something else, Mayor?
Yeah, please.
When we talk about the money and how much is enough to have in the bank, how much is there now? Well, there are a few projects, and let's look. And I know I see some of my friends from the east side of town around over here tonight. Lakemont Drive is falling apart. We've tried to patch it. It's something that's not budgeted. So now we're going to have to do a full-depth reconstruction of that road. We have the money in the bank to do that. It's not a budgeted item. We have the money in the bank to do that. Everybody has talked about here the underpass on Dixie Highway. It's an eyesore. We all know it's an eyesore. I'm going to tell you right now, Norfolk Southern is not going to paint that. Okay, we've been in many conversations with them. It's not going to happen. Okay, if it's going to get painted, we're going to do it. Now, they might do some in-kind stuff with us that we've been discussing with them and doing some things, but we're going to have to do it. You're not talking about something that's going to cost $10,000, $20,000. You're talking about something that's six figures, maybe $250,000 to get done. Now, how bad do we want it done? How bad does the citizens want that done? That's an eyesore to our city. If we don't have at least something setting beside, we can't do that. The property we just purchased adjacent to the Showcase property. Why do we do that? We did that for future development so that hopefully it would enhance our ability to get that site developed. We had the funds to do that. Those are the kind of things that you always want to have reserves for. Now, I'm a citizen. I've lived here over 25 years of my life. I've lived in this city, paid taxes. I'm glad to see a decrease in my taxes the same way everybody else is. But the prudent thing to do is to do that and do it with a plan. Going forward, I think we've done that in the past. I think it's continuing on in the future. And we can go down this path now, hopefully, with the boom in the economy that hopefully we're going to be seeing. And we've seen so far, at least, we're getting calls every day. It's something that didn't happen. Mr. Hahn would go months without anybody calling about any property. And that went on for a couple of years. Now we're getting calls weekly on those things that are available here. They all might not happen, and they all probably won't happen. But, it's much better today than it was 2 years ago, even last year. It's much better today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mark? Or for me? Go ahead.
Not for Mark. I had my questions before Mark got up and spoke. I just want to know, you said this letter that was up there before came out on Wednesday, last week? I didn't get one. How many others in here didn't get one?
Well, it went to the Tea Party.
No, it went to the
It went to
Tea
the
Party.
Tea Party, and some of us got it from friends of ours that are in the Tea Party, forwarded it to some of
It
us.
didn't come to us.
No, it didn't
no,
come
we-
to us.
we
It
were
went to the
excluded
Tea
from it.
Party.
I guess I'm not on the Tea Party list.
I'm not either. I just have
Nor
friends
am
that
I.
are.
I just, and as far as lowering the taxes, to give everybody $10, I think that's a minuscule amount for the mayor to be able to say, I promised I'd lower taxes. I lowered them $10 on $100,000.
It's a start in the right direction, though.
It is. Thank you, John. Any other questions? All right.
I just want to make a statement that we are doing well now because of what we've done over the last several years, not several months. And I just think that needs to be stated one more time.
All right, thank you. All right, do we want to move on to the year-end report?
We have a recommendation?
Yes.
I'll definitely recommend that we do what, take staff recommendation at 347, 3.47 per 100,000. If that's what we'll take, that's what some objective. We know we can afford it.
Is that a motion? Or,
Is that with the
this,
decrease or?
we're not voting here right now.
No, we're not voting.
Not
Okay.
until the first meeting, regular meeting.
All right, so,
We concur that it should be, we go with staff recommendation at 3.47.
okay, from the administration committee. Thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the year-end report. Mr. Fields?
Thank you. Just for all the residents that are in here, this will be on our website tomorrow, so you can have a full report then. Last year was the first year that we put together a operations report that was citywide, not departmentally. This is the second edition of that. We've gone along the same lines. I just want to go over a few of the highlights of what we were going to try to accomplish last year and what we did get accomplished, what we're continuing to work on, and what the goals for the upcoming year are citywide for the whole organization. Each department, when you go through this, and you have plenty of time to do it, because I don't know that we're going to go through departmentally now, but just look at it. If you have any questions of your committee that, your department that you have, please get with them. They've all done a great job of putting this together, working on those goals, and bringing us to the point that we are today. I'm going to say this, that we wouldn't be in the shape financially that we are, I don't believe, without the department heads and the, I guess, economical way they run their operations. We've always tried to pride ourselves on doing more with less, and hopefully we'll continue that. So, you want me to do it? Huh? Yeah, you got to scroll through it. Yeah. Go to 4. Page 4. I'm not going to read that front part. Yeah.
That'd make a nice dartboard, you know?
You can, yeah, it would make. Yeah, my picture in the front. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. It's a new picture. Did you notice? Took the one out of the Inquirer. Did the one from the swearing in. Anyway, it's my short message to everybody, and talk about, Missy, can scroll down just a little bit further. We talk about the stated goals for 2015 and what they were, and this was the fiscal year. We had a couple things, and again, I'm going to reiterate this one more time. Okay, we've been talking about this for an awful long time. For the year and a half that I've been here, all right, we need to get together as a community, city council, elected officials, business community, residential community, employees, and we need to set a vision for the city. We need to have a vision statement. And we've talked about this, of moving forward in one direction and how that direction needs to go, and then we need a vision statement to guide us in that, and it can be just that first step, the discussion we just had before. Our vision is to lower the taxes, to be the most livable place in northern Kentucky. Just those kind of things. It's simple, and everything that we do moves towards that, okay? So we need to get together. Again, we talked about it at the budget retreat that we had back in March, I believe. Missy, your car's ready.
I gotta go,
That was good. That was good. Anyway, we need to get together and develop those, okay? All right, so, you know, we want to do that, but we haven't got that done. You know, we do have new people on city council. We have a new mayor, a new executive on this, and we need to get together, and we need to set this vision so we can work forward together, just hopefully put all this behind us and work forward. We did develop the KPIs. Those are key performance indicators for each department. All right, we did get that accomplished this year in doing that. We'll talk about that a little bit more. The volunteer program, it kind of got put on the back burner. Those were the three main things that we were going to try to get done this year. Again, a lot of those things come. We have new leadership. There were some differences in opinion about where that was going to go, how we were going to use it, what we were going to do. I know there's some people sitting in this audience today that I have had personal conversations with about wanting to be a part of that, and they do want to be a part of that. We do want to move forward. And who better to have as ambassadors for this city than the residents that live here? And I know that we want to get that accomplished this year, and so that's one of the goals that we have and one of the KPIs that we've set out for our community liaison position this year. Going on down, the key performance indicators, we've talked about that. You saw my presentation about the key performance indicators for each department. Each department will be then evaluated on those. For those residents that are here tonight, our goal is to have those on our website by January 1. And then you can see and track the performance of each department and what we're doing. We hope to get them on there by then to do that. We did institute the new wage scale and performance awards. Last year was the very first year that we gave performance awards. We had 13 outstanding employees. We have over 120 in the city, 13 got those awards last year. I think it meant a lot. We need, you know, we're going to go down that same path this year, hopefully. The new evaluation system was finally put in place last year. It was the very first time that we've had that citywide evaluation that was common among all departments. I'm here to tell you, I read every one of them, and they were very good. For a first year of going down this path, very good, very good. And we're working on those as we speak. We're going to do some more training on how to use the standard evaluation guidelines this year for all of our supervisors. Have Assistant Chief Eagler in the police department going to put that on, who's our evaluation guru in the city, and that's going to take place very shortly. Personnel policies, you all adopted all the personnel policies last year. We tweaked every one of those policies were tweaked. Missy and her staff then have followed up on each of those this year. You'll see some of that in hers. There have now been a procedure down the next one. There's procedures and forms that go along with each of those new policies. All right, so employees can go to one central location. They can figure out what the policy is. They can figure out the procedure to get that policy completed, and then they can figure out all the forms that are all in one place for that to do. Commonwealth Station, after many meetings, many heated meetings and things. We've seen it come to fruition now, and we've not seen any of the bad things happen yet. Let's knock on wood, that everybody was afraid that were going to happen, and I don't believe they will. What you have seen is some buildings in that area that are being worked on at the time. We have a brand new building at 462 Erlanger Road that the company's come in and bought and doing some massive remodeling there. The gymnastics place across there has done remodeling outside. We're in conversations with the Super Bowl at this time to get some things done there. So I think things are moving along that way. The rental permit ordinance. The rental permit ordinance has been fully implemented on the executive side. Been working with Mr. Gatlin, Mr. Wickman. There's going to be some changes made to that. We've met with the Greater Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Apartment Owners Association. There are a couple of tweaks that we're going to make to it. We hopefully will have those done by the end of the year. They'll come back to you for adoption of those, but it's moving along. I want to say this, and I want to give kudos to Matt Allen. Matt worked very hard this year. Our Communications, Technology, and Innovation Department probably saw the largest change over the past year. We lost the director, Matt Allen, after we did a search. Matt Allen inside was selected, and out of some candidates, and I'm going to tell you, if you look at your budget document and you look at the requested budget for this year compared to what last year's was, Matt's is down $224,000. That's a huge savings in a budget that's less than $1 million a year. He also came into my office today and he asked me about switching our cell phone carrier and what we had to do and if it was adopted by council or not. And I said, no, it wasn't. That's an operational detail that we take care of. However, he said if we do this switch, he's going to save another $50,000 a year on one switch, the one thing. We have the new phone system in this building very shortly. You can look in his report. It's very detailed into that. And I want to say he's hit the ground running. And I'll tell you, he sent me an email at 3:45 this morning.
Yeah, I heard.
And that's because he was here because the fire alarms in our server rooms were going off and the halon system that we have in there. And he was worried and he was here. And while he was waiting for it to get repaired, he was sending emails at 3:45. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think he's asleep back here somewhere. You here? Oh, there you go. Okay. All right.
Oh, there you go.
All right. I'm not going to go through every department's, but you can see every department. What we tried to do is use more graphs this year than we did last year, just to give people reference points and where everything is. There are some more narrative, some more not, but it'll give you a real good comparison of where we were last year, where we are this year, and things like that to go. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you can see, stop that one just for 1 minute. And talk about the rental permit properties. We identified 838 in the cities. Now, that's not units. That's properties that we thought were potentially rental properties. That's a lot. Okay, that's just properties. That's not units. But you see where all that goes. All that information's in there. You know, it is. We've been very good. I mean, 568 applications have been submitted so far. I mean, you know, we've only got 48 that are incomplete. Pending was 16. I mean, we've got a very small number that we're dealing with out there that you know, we had no response on. So it's been very good. Missy and her staff and the codes enforcement officers have been working very, very, very hard to get this done. But I think each department goes through the accomplishments and some things. Greg, again, for the 12th year in a row, I believe, was awarded what was the award? Oh, Greg's gone. Oh, no, there he is. Yeah, Excellence in Financial Award. 12 years in a row, the city has received that award. That's a great accomplishment. But unless there's any questions, we're not going to go through this whole thing. Everybody's got it. Look at it. Like I said, we'll have it on the website in the morning. If somebody would, you know, for the residents to see. If there's any questions, please feel free to contact us at any time.
Are there any questions for Mr.
Great
Fields?
job.
Good job, Mark.
Very, very good job.
Thank you.
How long you been doing this?
It'll be 2 years in October. In this job.
All right, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, may I interrupt? Did we deal with the American Legal Publishing?
That got postponed because the gentleman wasn't going to be.
Right, I just want to make sure it was postponed. Everybody realizes that.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Wickman had pointed out that one of the things that was on the agenda initially for this evening was to talk about American Legal and to have a presentation from American Legal. Do we have a date that got rescheduled for?
If it's okay, we'd like to go ahead and move that to the third Tuesday in September. Is that fourth Tuesday? No,
The next
the next,
council
the next
committee
regular
meeting.
city council.
It's the fourth Tuesday of this month,
Right,
next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
No, not next Tuesday, September.
Talking about the next council committee meeting.
I'm thinking about the next city council committee meeting, Frank, in September, if that's possible.
Well,
The third
what we
Tuesday.
talked about between you, me, and American Legal was, and what they've committed to, is next Tuesday. Now, if you want to make it a different date, that's fine.
They couldn't make it.
Yeah, I know that. Okay.
They can make it next Tuesday.
That's okay.
And that's what we talked about postponing it to. Again, if you don't want to do that and you want to postpone it to another date, that's fine. I'll contact them and see if they're available.
Well, the only thing is will it need, that'll definitely need to be published though, right?
The meeting would have to be published unless it's on the third Tuesday of a given month. It doesn't need to be published in the newspaper. The newspaper just needs to be notified by fax. Notification is no problem.
Does next Tuesday work for everybody to get together?
What's the committee's recommendation?
That's regarding that codification.
If everybody seems comfortable with next Tuesday, I don't have no problem with that.
6:30?
At 6:30?
Okay,
Okay, Tuesday at 6:30.
Okay.
so at this point, we'll plan on meeting here 6:30 next
It really
Tuesday.
shouldn't be a very long committee meeting, so.
No.
Like short meetings.
All right, so now, can we motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Howard, second by Ms. Kyle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Does anybody want to take a break? A recess? Okay, then we'll go ahead and get started into our special council meeting, August 18th, 2015. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'll ask Mrs. Andrews to take a roll call.
Mr. Meyer,